turn up because the session that we're doing today is for the software version of the system. I did do a session like this probably about a year ago. I'm not entirely certain, something like that. And we did have some people turn up who were using the managed version of our software. So if you are a managed client, then this won't really be relevant for you, because in the managed version, you just do your lockdown and then everything else is dealt with via the payroll team, really. The software version, which is the one that we're doing today, requires more input and process on behalf of the client, and that's why we're doing the masterclass on it. So I know it's a little bit confusing because we call the full version software and the managed version managed, because the managed one requires less input by the client. So it is a little bit confusing that they are both software, but one of them is actually called software. So if you are a managed client, then you probably won't get an awful lot of benefit from the session here. But if you're a software client, please hang around. So I'm just letting people know in advance for that, so that they can go off and have a cup of tea instead or something like that. My name is Edward Evans, and I'm one of the trainers at Moorepay. I recognise a couple of names on the list here, so some of you probably already know me, because I do the main training as well. But today I am doing this session here, which is just to take you through the processing process for the software version of the system. So I'll be going through that with you today. And if you have any questions, please just put them into the questions box as we go along. I won't answer them as we go along. I will answer them at the end. But if you have any questions, please feel free just to put them into the questions area there. And before I start, before I actually go in there, I've got this nice little menu here, which I'll show you. So as I say, we're doing the processing payroll session today, and if we just go to the second page here, there's not an awful lot on there. It's starting the process. And getting your previews, and then doing the various different ways that you can put data in after you've started the calculation, and then finalizing and moving into the next period. So we'll be going through all that today, and as I say, any questions, just drop those into the questions box and we'll answer them at the end, because we'll have a sort of Q&A session. If we don't get time to go through all of them, because we only have till 11 o'clock, then we will answer the questions afterwards. So the product marketing team pick up any questions that we don't manage to get through, but to be fair, usually we manage to. There's not a huge amount of them, and a lot of them are the same question, but as I say, you put those into the box and I'll answer those at the end. So I won't see the box once I start. So if you ask any questions about any issues or anything, I won't see those, unfortunately, but I will check at the end and we'll go through the questions there. So let me get rid of that. I don't need that now. And I'm now going to just go through the process. So I've already logged into my software database, or at least one version. You may have more options in the menus than I've got for some of these. There's people screens and that. We won't see those anyway, really, but sometimes people have different shortcut options, and the reason for that is because you might have a version that's got some of the HR functionality on it, because we have 3 different versions. We've got the essential version, which is the one that I'm looking at now, and then we also have the premium and the professional versions. So you may have some extra options on there. Don't worry, they'll do the same thing, and I'm not looking at those anyway, so it's just the processing bit. So what we're assuming at this point is that you've got all the data in. So you don't do the processing bit until you're fairly sure that you're happy with the data. It's not the end of the world if you're not, because you can actually go back and you can change things. However, if you do that, you then have to recalculate it again. So it's more that it just takes the time to do that. So at this point, we would have expected that you've got all your starters put into the system. Any levers, you'd have processed those as well. All of the payroll changes need to have been done. So salary changes, basic rate changes, anything like that, variables, changes to any of the regular payments and deductions that people have, pensions, court orders, that kind of thing. So you put all those in, because if you don't, the previews won't be accurate, of course. So once you're happy with that, we're fairly happy with it, then the next step is to process. So that's the bit that we start with here. We've come in at that point quite a long way through the film, basically. So if you want to use one of the shortcuts, you can. There are a couple of shortcuts that take you to the processing screens. Submission due button will normally do that, and so will the process payroll one down here as well. They both do the same job. Both of those take you into the payroll menu and then into the process payroll button just here. So this is the processing screen. And as I mentioned before, managed clients have a completely different screen to this one. So that's how you know. But we have a number of different buttons on here, of course, and the one that we need to look at is the calculate payroll one. Usually that will have the pay date for the period that you're in, including December usually, but because sometimes people process the payroll at different times in December, they usually know in advance and it's normally in the calendar. But if not, it is actually possible to change that. So you can change that date if you need to, if you're paying people early or something like that for whatever reason. But usually the system will have done that for you. So all you have to do is click on the calculate button. And once you've done that, you have to confirm it. So if we confirm that now, you will get a few banners along the bottom there. You can see we've got some grey banners popping up, and then all of a sudden you get a green one. It is important to wait until it's finished giving you all those banners, because it doesn't do it any harm, but sometimes if you come out of the screen before it's finished doing that, the system just decides to abort the process and you have to start again. So it's always important just to wait until the banners have finished doing the processing there. I have to confess, I'm not certain at which one of those banners it decides that it's all going to process. But I do know that if you do it at some point whilst they're coming up, it will just abort the process if you move out of the screen. So just wait until it comes up with the green one at the end. Later on, you will see that there are others. When you're doing that, you get the same or similar banners, but you don't always get the green one. And if that's the case, all you have to do is wait for the validation OK one at the end. I don't really know why we've got different ones, but that's just the way it is. So the validation OK one, if you don't get the green banner, validation OK is the one to look out for. Now, if I just go out to the main screen here now, and you'll notice there that a little notification has popped up in the top right hand corner. That's just to tell me that the thing is in process, but you can tell that anyway, because the payroll window box on the shortcuts there has turned red. My head went blank then. So it's turned red there, and it's showing that it's closed, and it's in calculate at the moment, so it's doing that. But you also get this notification up here to tell you that it's been submitted. I'm just going to clear that. If you click on view, it just takes you to the processing screens again. So whilst it's in process, and from that point thereafter, unless you reverse it, you can't do anything with the system. It will not, well, or you can, but you can't do an awful lot. So if we just pick on somebody here, there's Thomas, who is my employee login. As I say, those of you who have actually had training sessions with me will know that. You'll also know he gets a lot of pay rises as well. Far too many. There we go. So when you go into the screens, some of them will be partially editable. So in the case of the personal details one there, you will see that you will be able to edit things like phone numbers and that kind of thing, but it won't let you edit the email, the email address. It'll let you do that. The address of the person or the title or the name or anything like that, because that kind of data, it goes to HMRC, so it doesn't allow you to do anything with it. Same with the bank details. And if we go down to the pay and deductions area there as well, then the permanent pay screens and the variable pay screens, etc., they will all show as non-editable. So some of them you can edit, some of them you can't, some of them are partially editable. The only ones really that you can edit are things like the attachments there. And this is what I'm saying here, because some of you will find that you've got more menus on there, but that's okay. It just means that you're using one of the premium or professional versions, and I'm using the essential one today. So there are still some things you can do in there, but none of them relate to the payroll itself. Anything that's payroll goes to HMRC. It won't let you do anything with those. Now, while I've been waffling here, it's calculated the payroll. And that means that the previews are available for you. And there are a couple of different ways that you can get your preview reports as well. So the first one is to go into the processing screen. So once again, you can use the shortcuts that I've already shown you, the processing one of those, but you can also just go into the menu here and go to the process payroll. In the top right hand corner, it will then give you your preview reports. So if you want to look at them through there, you can. It gives you all the same reports. As you can see, you've got your little eye at the end there so that you can click on them, and it will then allow you to view that report. Most people, though, tend to go into the reports menu to look at them. The reason being that if you go into the reports menu, you've got your preview reports just there. And in the preview reports here, once again, you do get the option to view them all individually if you want to, but you've also got the option to download them all at once. Now, the default setting on here is that you'll get a PDF of each report. So if you want to view them, you just click on the little I at the end of the line there, and it will then take you in. So there's the pay slip analysis report. And all of your reports are in here, so it includes things like RTI quality check, so that you can preempt if there are any issues with the data that goes to HMRC. You got your payslip analysis report, there's a balance control sheet, schedule of payments, there's all kinds of different things on there. Some people use them all. Most people only use a handful of them, to be perfectly honest, but whichever ones you want to use, you just download them there. And as I say, you can do it individually, or you can just download the whole lot. Now, if you have looked at those reports and everything is fine, then you can go on to the next step, which is complete and process, and we'll see that in a minute. However, if you have looked at your reports and you've found some errors or inconsistencies, or somebody's just come to you straight after you've processed and said, I'm sorry, but Fred had a pay rise and we forgot to tell you, because that happens. I know it happens. So if that happens, there are a couple of things that you can do. It depends on what actually needs to be changed. So if we go back into the processing screen again, and this time, just to show that it does work, we'll use one of the shortcuts. So if we go back in here and scroll down a bit, there's the complete and process button. However, I'm going a bit further down than that, because you've got this bit down here, which is a list of all the employees and the previous pay, the gross pay, etc. So it gives you a fair amount of information on this screen here. But if we just pick up Thomas there again, who always gets picked on because he's my employee, and you can see you get this extra menu when you click on the plus button at the end of the row there. Now, the majority of the screens that you see on here are only there for information. So if you go into personal details, it will show you his address and things like that. Contract details, it will show departmental data, that sort of thing. And I'm not going to explain them all. It's obvious what they are from there. But you've got things like permanent pay on there and permanent deductions. And it will let you see those, but it won't do anything with them. So you can go into each of those menus and you can see the data that relates to each of those. However, a little bit further down there, you've got the option for post payroll changes. Now, let's just say for a minute that somebody's address was supposed to change and you want to change that. You can't do that through here. You can see the information, but you can't do anything with it. And the same goes for some of the permanent payments and that kind of thing as well. You can't change that data through here. It's mostly for the variable stuff that you would be doing this. So if you go into post payroll changes there, and what you'll find, it's just loading the screens up. It takes it a minute to do this, but it gives you all your pay items and also all of your deduction items. And as I say, there are a few on there that you can't do anything with. So if you want to change somebody's salary, it won't let you do that. It's not an editable feature, but it will let you change a lot of the variable amounts and things. So the pay elements that you see on here, it's mostly the variable stuff. You can see there that you can edit car allowances and things as well. But the reason for that is because the system doesn't really know whether that's a permanent or a variable payment. You can actually use it for either of them. So it will let you edit things like that. But the ones that they're like back pay adjustments, that kind of thing. Some of those actually feed into the net to gross. Sorry, they feed in because of other processes, and it won't let you do anything with them. So if you wanted to change any of these, then you can do that. So if we scroll down there and you can see Thomas has got an £800 bonus. So if I wanted to go in there, then I could change that to 900 if I wanted to, and then save it. And then after I've saved the data, I go back to the top of the screen here and I calculate. Now, when you calculate there, that will then generate another set of preview reports for you. So it will make the amendment that it needs to through the post payroll bit here, and then it will generate you another set of preview reports so that you can check them. So this is great if you've just got one or two things to do which are mostly of a temporary nature. It's fine because you can just go in, tweak a couple of people, calculate it, and then once you've calculated it, you can then carry on. You can check your previews again. Now, I'm not going to do that because it takes a few minutes to recalculate when it does it, and we only have an hour in which to do all this stuff. So I'm just going to cancel that off. But once you calculate, you'll just get your preview reports. Now, the thing is, though, if you've got something a bit more permanent that needs to be amended, you can't use the post payroll changes. You've got to use the reverse payroll function instead. So if you need to change somebody's salary, reverse the payroll. If you want to change their address, you reverse the payroll. Things like that, it can only be done through the reverse payroll. So I'm going to reverse the payroll now. So when you click on reverse, it will give you this screen here, and it's got the restore payroll on there. And you'll notice there that it's got clear locks before restore. Some of our clients have an option to have a preview payslip. Not everybody. It depends whether you actually want it or not usually. And if that's the case, if you've released the pay slips, you might sometimes see that it says clear locks before restore. And there are other reasons as well, but don't worry about it if it's blanked out. If it is actually in the same color as the restore and cancel buttons though, always clear the locks first, because if you click on restore, it won't let you. It'll just tell you need to clear the locks. So just make sure that if it's giving you the option to clear the lock, just clear the lock and it will be fine. The other thing that I would say is you don't do a post payroll change if you're going to reverse the payroll, because if you go into post payroll changes and make a change in there, when you reverse this, it's going to take it back out again. So there's no point. If you've got to reverse the payroll, always do that first. You might have a couple of post payroll changes to do after you've reversed it and put it back again, but never do a post payroll change and then reverse the payroll, because it doesn't do it any harm. It just means that you're wasting your time. It'll just take it back out again. So if we restore the payroll now, confirm that. And once again, you can see it's coming up with its little menu messages at the bottom there. And it knocks us back to the screen here, and this one has another message again. You can see the initial data successfully retrieved. I always forget about that one. So validation okay, successfully retrieved, they're okay, but you also get the green one saying submitted. All of those, it just means it's completed the process. So it's now reversing. You can see the reverse is pending on there, and if we go into the notifications there, and it's actually popped up with the final notification about this while we were going in here as well. So that was a really quick reverse that it did there. But you can see here, reverse pay completed and submitted. So the submitted one comes through, and it usually takes a minute for it to do the reverse. It's not usually very long. It does depend on how many staff you have, though. I don't have that many on here. So I'm just going to clear those out, because again, they just take you to the processing screen. So we'll just take those off. And we are now, if I refresh the screen here, because it says reverse pending there at the moment, you can see it's now reversed. Now that means if I go back into Thomas again, all the screens are free again. So I can now edit data on there. So I might want to just do something silly like change the title. There we go. We can do that. But also, if you go into the permanent payments and deductions areas there and the variable pay areas, you can change those as well. So if we just go into the variable bit there, and I'm going to just make an adjustment to this. So the bonus, I changed that to 900 on the post payroll, but I didn't actually put it through because it would have reversed it. And as I say, it just extra time that you don't need when you're doing a demonstration in an hour. So if we just update that now and then save it, and there we go. So we're all updated there. I've made the changes I want to. So now I'm going to recalculate the payroll. So if we go back into the process payroll screen and go down to the calculate payroll bit here and confirm. You can do that as often as you like. I actually had a client yesterday who apparently it happens a lot for them. So people tell them about bits of payment that weren't mentioned and stuff like that. So if you have that kind of issue, then it's fine. You can reverse and recalculate as often as you like. For people where there are a lot of those, reversing is the best way of doing it, because you might have to do another bulk timesheet import or something like that, and it's a lot quicker if you've got a lot of corrections to do just to reverse the whole lot, rather than doing a post payroll change and then going through each individual, because you've got the calculate and everything with that. Whereas if you just reverse it, then you can go in, maybe use another bulk timesheet to import all your variables again and make whatever changes you need to make, and then once you've done that, you can just calculate again. So reverse and calculate as often as you like. Something that it's worth knowing about just at this point, and it also pads out the time for me while I'm waiting for it to calculate, is if you go into the payroll menu and scroll down a bit, you've got this payroll processing status just here. And it's a useful tool because it shows you where it's up to. So while I've been waffling there, it's actually finished its calculation, it's completed. But that usually takes a couple of minutes to go through. It's been quite good today. It took about a minute and a quarter there. But as you can see, you've got calculate submitted, progress, completed. So you can see where it's up to. If it seems to be taking longer than you'd expect it to, if you go into the processing status here, and you can just see where it's up to. If it's showing submitted and nothing else, and it's been like that for 20 minutes, it might be something that needs to be reported. But if it's in progress, it could just be that it's being taking its time because there's a lot of calculations for it to do or something like that. So you can use that to find out where it's up to, but you can also see when it's reversed as well. And as I say, the reverse was very quick today on here. It was submitted at 25 past 10 and 49 seconds, and by 17 seconds after 26 passed, it was done. So you can see all of the stages. And if we scroll down a bit, there are the others as well. So the next stage that we'll be looking at is the complete and process one. And then after that, you've got the period end. So all of those, you can just see those from this screen here. It's quite a useful thing to know about, just so that you know where you are. Now, if we just go up into the notifications again, you can see the submitted option is showing there too. So we'll just remove that. And as I say, you can go backwards and forwards doing your calculate in reverse until the cows come home. So we've done that bit. We're going to assume now that the information is correct, that everything is good. I can move on to the next stage. So if we go back into the processing screens here now, and back down here. So as I say, I could reverse it again. I could even go down here and I could do some post-payroll changes. I'm not going to because, like I say, I then have to wait for it to calculate. But the fact is that you could. But as I say, just that one thing that I mentioned earlier, don't do a post-payroll change and then reverse the payroll. It's pointless because you'll just lose it again. So do whatever reverses you need to do as many times as you like. And then if there are any final tweaks through the post-payroll changes, do those. It will then generate your final previews. You can just check everything is good on there. And assuming everything is okay, you can then complete and process. So if we do the complete and process here now, and once again, you get the little buttons on the bottom there, the banners, sorry, should I say. Confirm that. And there we go, validation okay down at the bottom there. So now it's doing a few things at once at this point. So completing pay is showing on the closed status window there. And if we go into the payroll processing status screen, I'll just show you this again. It's submitted and now it's in progress. So it's saying there that the final reports and the backs have started at 10:32 and 54 seconds. So what's actually happening here? First thing, your RTI goes over to HMRC, real-time information. So all the tax, NI, etc., all goes to HMRC. It's full payment submission, which processes that data and sends it over to Inland Revenue. And then after that, you also have an EPS that goes through, an employer payment summary. So if you're claiming back any parental leave, for example, or if you are paying the apprenticeship levy or something like that, that goes through on the employer payment summary as well. So the RTI part, the governmental bit, that happens automatically as a result of the processing that we're doing there. So complete and process starts that bit. Then it will generate your final reports and your pay slips and your BACS file if we're generating one. There are a couple of different ways that BACS works. It depends what you've actually signed up for. So for some people, we actually do the BACS. For other people, we prepare them a file for them to do it. Some people don't do either. They just prepare their own files and do it. So that will depend on your own process and what you've actually purchased, really. But the point is that all of this is happening as a result of the processing there. So RTI is gone, final reports are generated, the pay slips are generated. And if I just refresh the screen now, it will probably be completed. Because ironically, the complete bit takes less time than the initial processing one. So there you go, we're all completed on there now. So at this point, we want our final reports, and there's actually a shortcut for that down here. So you can see here, final reports. That was under upcoming earlier on, but it's moved into final reports because it's now available. You normally get a notification about that anyway, but you can see it when you log into the system here because it'll appear at the top of the list. Once again, if you go into the processing screen, you will see that the Preview Reports tile in the top right hand corner there has now changed to Final Reports. So if you click on there, you've got the same thing. You've got all your final reports accessible through there, and you can download them all individually. Once again, no, you can use the final report shortcut. That actually takes you into the reports menu there. So whichever one of those you use, both of them take you into the reports, but you can see there it's now highlighting the reports, and there is a final reports menu in the corner there too. Some of you may have archive reports as well, and that means that if you forget to download your final reports, you'll still have an archive version of them. Not everybody opts for that version, that service though, it depends, but you will have your final reports. So if we go in here, and once again, the benefit of this is that you can use the download all button, whereas you can't do that through the processing screen. But you get all the same reports, really, that you get for the previews. So you get your P32 report, the balance control sheet, the payslip analysis report. We've seen a few of these already. You get the schedule of payments on there as well. So you've got all the reports that you need through there. Some people might have pension schemes set up on there. They may have occupational sick pay schemes on there. There are reports for those that come through as well. So you may find that you've got more than I've got because you've got more features than I've got, but even so, they'll all be in there. In addition to the PDFs, though, in the final reports, you also get a set of CSV reports. Now, whereas when you click on one of the PDF reports here, so let's just pick on the balance control one. So you may actually just click on the PDF, it will actually show it on there. But if you use the CSV ones there, if you open one of those, they usually just download into the corner there. So you can go into those, and you can see the music. So this information here, it's all the basic departmental data, the company code, the employee number, that kind of thing. They're all on there. But the main body of this report is just all the pay elements, whether it's a permanent one or whether it's a deduction or whether it's a temporary one or if it's a court order or pension, national insurance, gross, net, etc. It's all on here. So you've got that. But you also get reports for the pensions, you get employee personal data on there as well. So you get all the important information from the PDFs in the CSV files there. Now, at that point, you've had the previews, so they should all be correct, and you shouldn't have to do anything else with those. So the final reports are the last bit, but you've also got the pay slips as well. Now, again, the way that this works varies a little bit from client to client, but usually the system will release the pay slips on the pay date there. So in my case, the pay slips will release on the 28th of February. The thing is, though, a lot of people prefer to release the pay slips early. So we get ours the day before we get paid. But the system won't do that. If you want to release the pay slips early, then you have to go in and you have to do that yourself. So if you click on the payday button just there, where it says payday 16, and that will take you into this screen here. And as you can see there, my February payslip is ready to be released, but it hasn't been yet because it's not due to be released until the 28th. So if I wanted to, I could click on the edit button there, make it active, and then update it. And it will tell you that the pay date is still in the future. Even if it's tomorrow, it'll still do that. But I've now released that payslip. And if we move out to the main screen again now, and everybody will get a notification to let them know that the payslip is available, but they will also get an email to tell them that the payslip is available as well. So there's a link on it so that they can log in. So everybody gets to see the payslips, and they will also appear on the employee's profile as well. So if you go into one of your employees, It's been a bit slow today. It's suffering from Wednesday. For some reason, it seems to do that on Wednesdays for me. But if you go in there, you can go into the payslips list there, and you'll be able to see all of the payslips there. So there is everything we need. Period 11 is at the top. I've got privacy mode on there at the moment, but there's period 11. You can download a copy of that payslip there. So that's the payslips released. Now, the final reports will also include the BACS file if we've generated one for you, and it will also include the P45s for the employee as well. So they are electronic. You would either download it and send it to the employee, or alternatively, you could just print it off and send it to them. Whichever way you do that, it's up to you with that. But the P45s are part of that final report pack as well. Now, once you've done that bit, you're ready to move into the next period. And I do occasionally get people asking me, well, what happens if you've done all this and then something last minute occurs? So if we go back into the payroll menu again, and you can see down here, there is a supplementary run option. Now, I don't have the feature. It won't let me reverse it. However, to do a supplementary run, you tick the box there and then run the process, and that will then allow for additional data to be put in. What I would recommend there, though, we recommend this for everybody, if you ever have to do a supplementary run, always speak to your payroll team first. Don't just do it, because they will talk you through the process, but they'll also let you know what additional charges may be applied for it, because generating a second BACS file, RTI being regenerated, that kind of thing, that can incur additional charges. So before you do that, speak to them. They'll take you through the process, and then it can be processed. But as I say, only do that if you absolutely have to. Assuming everything is okay, though, it's then time to move into the next period. Some people will do that as soon as they've released the payslips. Others prefer to be a bit more cautious and wait until they've got some data to enter for the next period. So consequently, for some of you, the period end might be the last thing that you do on the current payroll. But for others, it might be the first thing that you do on the next period. There's no wrong way. It's just whichever way works best for yourselves under the processes that you actually follow. But if you click on the current period button there, that will take you back into the processing screens here. Now, at that point, this period end tile will then be open and available. So if you click on that and then you click on run, and that will then move you into the next period. I'm not going to do that because I've still got half a month left, just over, before I finish. So I do use this for training sessions. And if I do the period end, it won't let me reverse it. So if you click on run, that will move you into the next period. If you've forgotten to download your reports, it'll come up with an additional window after you click on run there saying you haven't downloaded your reports, just to remind you to do so. But sometimes people click on that without thinking about it, and it moves into the next period without them having downloaded those final reports. And that's why you've also got the archive reports. But I would recommend just making sure that you do that as part of the process anyway. Now, once you've done the period end, it will then reset. Period end usually only takes about 30 seconds or so. Payroll window will then show as open and white once more, and all of the other tiles here, the submission due, etc., they will change to the next period dates and numbers there. And that is the entire process. So it's all quite straightforward, but there are bits there that you may or may not have known about, like the post-payroll changes and that kind of thing. But that's the entire process on there. Now, as I say, we have the section now where we do the questions and answers. So I'm just going to move to this bit here, and we'll have a look at the questions. We'll see what we've got on there. So what have we got? 10, 12. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to start at the bottom and work up. So first question there, why is the bulk list in alphabetical order of first names and not surnames? To be honest, I don't know the answer to that. That's just something that they decided on when they moved to the next gen platform. So why is the bulk list in alphabetical order the first names and not the surnames? It's a decision that they just decided on, but I don't know the reason why they did that. I'm not privy to the thinking behind it. There are some things in here which even I sometimes think, why did they do that? Why have we got two homepage buttons, one above the other, for example? That's one of them. So I don't know, but that's just the way that they did it when they were designed. I don't know whether it was an issue or not, that they couldn't have it any other way, but I don't know for sure. Next question there is the session recorded? It is recorded, and usually the product marketing team will send out the recordings after the session, so everyone should get a copy of that. Next one. When the payroll window is closed, does this also mean anything being synced across from Moorepay HR will not pull through either? It does. So some of you will actually be using a different version of the HR system. There is a Moorepay one, but there is also it used to be Natural HR, but we just call it HR now. But for the people who use the all-in-one system, which means that you've got the actual HR product, which has its own screens, most of your data comes from the HR side of the system, and that includes salaries and stuff like that. So for those people, once you've locked the payroll, once you've processed there, then if you try to send data over from the HR side of the system, it won't accept it on the payroll side. It does give you an error report. It sort of puts it into a holding area, if you like. And if you then reverse the payroll and then try again, it will work. But whilst it's in process and that payroll window is showing closed, it won't let you sync any of the data on there. So that's a good question. Yeah. Last time I did one of these, we didn't have any clients with that. It's a good question, that one. But yeah, absolutely. You're right. It won't work if it's in lockdown. What's the software idle time? The software idle time is actually about 5 minutes. It's not brilliant, and it is something that's been flagged up because it does it for us as well. It logs us out after 5 minutes. So that's the usual idle time for it if you're not doing anything with it. Another question here. How would we process a leaver who was missed 2 periods ago? For example, employee was supposed to be processed as a leaver from the 15th of December, but due to an admin error was not and continued to be paid until January. The payroll system does not allow negative pay to be processed. What is your advice on getting the employee processed correctly? So as far as that goes, if you ever have that issue where you had to put an employee through like that, I would recommend speaking to your payroll team, because you're right, the system won't allow a negative once that person has gone. If you do have any issues like that, it's better to speak to the payroll team on that, because there's a couple of different ways. Some of the processes that you can do from that, though, involve a bit of work in the background to make it work, because the data at the front end feeds into the back end of the system. They call it Payplan, and the payroll teams do have access to that. So there are a couple of ways around it. It depends on the situation, really, though. So it's better to speak to your payroll team about that one. When you reverse the payroll, will any variable adjustment to payroll be removed, or is it just the post-payroll changes? It's only the post-payroll changes. So you may have noticed, though, when I did my reverse, I went into Thomas's variable payments, and they were still there. So you don't lose any of the data that you put in before you processed. It's only the post-payroll changes that you lose, because they happened after the before the reversal. So, sorry. So when you go in there, you reverse the payroll. It will take the post payroll changes out, but any other changes that were put in before the original calculation, they will still be there. So don't worry about that. That's why I say don't do post payroll changes if you're going to reverse it. There's no point. You won't lose any of the data that was in there before you calculated, but you will lose the post payroll changes. Next one. Pre-review reports after post changes. It is only for related employees or whole payroll, including everyone. It will actually generate a whole set of new preview reports for you. So if you make any post payroll changes, it gives you an entire new set of previews on there. Quite new to the payroll system. We tend not to use these functions post payroll changes. Can I ask, is this instead of submitted a V1? No, I mean, the post payroll changes, they are just there because occasionally you might have to do something like you forgot to put overtime in or something like that. So the post payroll changes are just a way of making an amendment without having to reverse the entire payroll. That's its only purpose. That's all it's for. It's just to make life a bit easier for you rather than having to reverse the whole lot. That's all. Payslips to preview, that is a feature which it depends whether you've got it switched on or not. Because when you process the payroll and it generates the preview reports, then you can also have it set so that you get preview payslips as well. And they get released the same way that the final payslips do, but you get that option in the preview stage. As I say, not everybody has it. It depends whether it's been set up or not. But it's something. It's an additional service. There's usually an additional charge for that. What is the latest point that you can reverse and run the payroll and process? How many days before payday? That depends on your submission dates. So you'd have to check your own dates on there. You've got your submission date, which is actually the date that everything should be in by. So generally speaking, the submission due date is the last date in which everything will go through in time. But there can be a bit of leeway on that after that date, but if you need to do that, it's always best to speak to the payroll team first just to make sure. And we are currently waiting to integrate our HR and payroll. Would it be best to add any deductions through variable pay before starting the process? Well, until you go live with the HR system, then yeah, if they've got to go through the payroll, they'd have to go into the payroll side of it anyway. It does mean that they won't show in the HR side of the system once it's integrated, because the payroll system doesn't tell the HR system very much. The HR system tells the payroll a lot, but it doesn't work in the other direction. But yeah, it's the only way you can do it really, because if you don't have access to the HR, then it's only the payroll bit that you can put the data in through. Is there an option to see total timesheets? We have added and total pay after calculating payroll. You can only see that on the preview reports. I know that there were additional features on that. You could build an extract report with the timesheet data on it, but you can only get the payroll information out of the preview reports on there. Once payroll has been completed and processed, what is available to users to run a supplementary payroll to correct one or two individual pay slips? So if you do a supplementary run, then it just allows you to make whatever corrections need to be made. As far as that goes, though, it depends on the circumstances. It depends what needs to be put through, which is why I say it's always best to speak to the payroll team on there as well. The CV report, the CSV reports that I showed you there, as far as they go, I'm using Edge. So when you download them, it actually goes into the downloads in the top corner of Edge. So if you just go into the downloads at the top right hand corner there, it'll actually show those and you can then download them. But if you go into your downloads folder, they'll be in there as well. Can you send out the payslips before submitting RTIs so staff can check if they are correct? You can have preview reports if you want. You can have preview payslips if you want them, but we do have to set those up for you. So as I say, it is possible, but it is an additional feature that. What if we use Moorepay HR? Do the payslips get published on the self-service account with an email? Yes, they do. So if you're not using natural HR, then you will be able, you'll just have the Moorepay HR. It's a slightly different service. But yes, the payslips do get published. They don't get pushed through like they do on the HR system because the natural HR one, they get pushed into the other side of the system, whereas the Moorepay HR is actually integrated into the payroll part. So everybody will just get the notification and the email on there as well. Always made my payslips active. If for some reason I did not, will the system automatically release them on payday? Usually they will do that. Check with your payroll team to make sure, but usually I would expect them to release on the payday for you. Once again, there are certain circumstances where they don't. Some people prefer not to, but if you just check with them on that, but normally I would expect that. In some reports, the date formats are in the US-based format. Can we ask for those to be changed? Unfortunately not. I don't know why we have them that way, to be honest, because you're right. Some of them are in UK format or mostly European format, but some of them are in the UK format as well, in the US format as well. And I don't know why that is, but that's the same for everyone, unfortunately. How do you end up an employee on payroll once they resign? Well, you'd go into the contract screen for that. I mean, it's not part of this particular session, but on the employee's profile, if you go into the contracts information screen, which is under the employee information, and you set them as a leaver and then you put the leave date in. Resignation is one of the leave reasons on there. I think there has been a masterclass on things like that as well, but you can see that in the e-learning links too, which I think they do give you when they send you the recordings, so you can find it in there as well. I've only got 2 minutes left, so I'm trying to get through these as quick as I can. We use an Excel spreadsheet to update Moorepay with everyone's mileage expenses. Is there a way that our spreadsheet can be uploaded to Moorepay as opposed to having to manually input everything, which can be open to errors? There is a thing where you've got the bulk timesheet. Now there is a session on the bulk timesheet, and there's also a session on the mapper as well. The bulk timesheet is specific. You can't change the configuration of that really, but the mapper, you've got different types of CSV file for inputting different types of information. Now you do on both of those really, you have to make sure that the information on your CSV file actually matches up on that. Some people do VLOOKUPs and things like that, but it is actually possible to import data using either the mapper or the bulk timesheet. And as I say, there are masterclasses on that. If you look at our YouTube channel, you'll be able to see them on there, but there are also instructions on those in the e-learning areas on our website as well. Why the payslips are not part of the preview reports? The payslips are part of the preview reports. Actually, if you go into your preview reports, you will see there is a report in there which is just one file. It's a sort of condensed version of the payslips, but that allows you to go through the payslips and make sure that everything is correct. And Do you provide training on how the inputs interact with payroll, e.g., overtime, expenses, etc.? There is a masterclass on entering pay elements, so overtime and that kind of thing. So yes, we do actually have one of those. When we're doing our training sessions, that's one of the main things that we go through in those. And there is also the e-learning as well, so you can go through those there too. Now, I do have some questions left on there that I've not been able to get through because we've run out of time. There's quite a few of them sort of going through as I was talking there as well. So those ones they will pick up, as I say, they'll get back to you with the answers to those. But as far as it goes, we've finished here. The session's complete now. There are your answers to most of your questions can be found on the e-learning links in our website, and of course we do have a lot of masterclass sessions as well, which you can refer to. But as far as it goes there, I hope it's been useful for you today going through the masterclass here with the processing part. We do lots of these things. We do one every month at least. But as I say, any questions I've not been able to get to, they will be picked up by the product team. And thank you very much for your time, everyone, today. I hope you have a good day. Thank you.